Okay, this is the moment of the interview. We're gonna be chatting with our guest. His name is Mickey Perez, or Mickey Perez, as known as Mickey Perez. We're gonna be getting to know a little bit of his story around music. He's a son of the diaspora, definitely, because his parents are from Ecuador and Cuba, so his background is really strong. We're gonna get to know about how did he get into music and records and becoming one of the most active DJs in the scene right here in New York City. And he's been traveling around, also has to do a lot with the music in Chicago and Miami. So a lot of stories, a lot of background, a great background. So here he is with us. He is Mickey Perez. Mickey, I'm gonna turn on your microphone and say hi.
Hey man.
Yeah,
you can hear me?
Can hear you. Yeah.
Beautiful.
All right. Welcome, Mickey. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. Let's get to know a little bit about your story, about your story in your life, because you were born in Chicago.
I was born in Chicago, yeah.
But parents from Cuba and from Ecuador.
Yes.
Right? Did you have some musical story with your family coming from Latin America, which in Cuba, especially, that it's very strong, like the cultural, like musically?
There was always a massive connection that my dad's side of the family had with music, specifically Cuban music, but none of them were ever musicians. I didn't have any kind of musician background in either side of my family, but my dad's side of the family were a lot of dancers. And they were very conscious. Like, we would have parties when I was super young, 4, 5, 6, 7 years old. Parties with, you know how it goes.
Yeah.
Parties with like your parents and your parents' friends, and it's like a bunch of little kids, but everyone's just hanging out, you know. And the earliest influence for me that I saw with them and their influences with music was like Celia Cruz, for sure, Benny Moré, and then Michael Jackson.
You were born in Chicago.
In Chicago.
In Chicago. Okay. And did you get involved with music being there? Or until what age you were in Chicago?
I was there till I was almost 12. So in 1990, I moved to Miami.
Okay.
So I did not get into any like music classes or anything like that. But funny enough, in 5th grade, when I was in 5th grade, 10 years old, my older brother was a huge heavy metal fan.
Oh my God.
Wow, that's a gigantic wasp.
Yeah. It's a visitor.
He was a huge fan of heavy metal, and he introduced me to Metallica. I remember he showed me the music video for One by Metallica.
Yeah.
The 7 minutes. And he introduced me to Headbangers Ball. So that to me was like a major like influence, because from that one video, I started getting into different heavy metal.
Okay.
And but the bad part was my mom finding out about it and thinking it was devil worshiping music.
Devil, of course.
So I had to start liking like Guns N' Roses and Warrant and Skid Row, you know, like the corny kind of rock.
Yeah.
So then in Miami we moved, and it was a completely different world, Miami, than Chicago, in terms of like, because I lived in the city till I was 7, and then my parents moved us out to the suburban Chicago for the last 4 years I was there. So it was me, one other kid from Ecuador, and one black kid, and that was it, you know? Then we go to Miami, and it's like nothing but Latin people of all shapes and sizes, like blonde hair, blue eyes, but they're Colombian or Cuban, you know, or Brazilian.
Like the diaspora right there, right?
Yeah. I mean, you had black and you had white. Yeah. And most of them spoke Spanish. And if they weren't, they were Caribbean, like Haitian or Jamaican, you know?
Okay.
So like the Miami influence, to me, the music was when it kind of really started. Metallica was like the first. Actually, let me take
what
that
a
back.
contrast, huh?
Jackson 5 was Michael Jackson and Jackson 5 was the first real like seed. And then the second one was Metallica.
Okay.
But Metallica felt like the first thing that I found.
Okay,
you know?
yeah.
And then I was like 15, 16, I got into hip hop.
Okay.
And that was like Miami's massive influence in terms of music. Miami has a very rich black music history, black American music. Before like Latin people started migrating there, it was really rich in like soul and funk music.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, big time. From the 60s through the disco era of the 70s, Tiki Disco is like a Miami-based record label that did a lot of disco records, a lot of releases. And then in the 80s, hip-hop became big with Two Live Crew, and then like that kind of booty bass sound that now Miami is like synonymous for. So like that was something that I had no idea in Chicago. And then I get to Miami, and it's on the radio. People are blasting it in their cars. You're going to parties, 7th grade, 8th grade, the music blasting.
Oh my God.
And the culture of people, the way they're acting too, is something that kind of took me off guard, because in Schaumburg, I was in 6th grade, and I remember the last day of school, I found out the coolest kid in my 6th grade class was dating this other girl, and I had no idea because I never saw them hold hands or kiss or anything.
Yeah.
3 months later, I'm starting my first day of school in Miami, and my mom is walking me to my first class, and I'm nervous.
Yeah, of course.
You know, like I'm afraid, I'm nervous, and I'm seeing couples like holding hands and making out, grabbing each other's, you know,
Yeah,
butts.
grabbing themselves.
Yeah, you know, and I'm like, what the hell? You know, it was like total like day and night contrast, you know?
Okay.
Definitely. Around the same time I started getting into hip-hop music, I started getting into films. And
Yeah.
specifically the films of New York filmmakers like Spike Lee, Martin Scorsese, John Cassavetes, Brian De Palma, like a bunch of they made a lot of New York-centric films. The Godfather, even though, you know, it's like old school New York. And that they provided like a picture of what New York City was. And on top of that, I'm a huge Chicago Bulls fan, and the Bulls and the New York Knicks were rivals in the mid-90s,
Yeah.
you know? So I would see New York through that window, and then when I got into hip-hop music, I felt like I was like listening to like, and most of the hip-hop I loved was from New York. Brooklyn specifically, but also the Bronx, Queens, Uptown, you know? And I felt like New York City was this like, I can never survive in New York. New York was rough, and, you know, I'll get my ass kicked in New York, and people would bully me there, you know? And I wound up moving there to become a filmmaker. I thought I was going to be a filmmaker when I first moved here.
Yeah, I read something about that.
Yeah, in 2002, I thought I was going to be the Latin American version of Spike Lee.
Oh my God,
That's what I wanted to be at least.
Good idea, man.
You know?
Yeah.
So the music thing, it kind of happened in a weird way because my dad passed away in 2000, and you know how it goes with you're growing up, you trying not to listen to the music your parents listen to.
Yep.
And then he passed, and I'm in New York, and in New York is where the first time I saw like Latin people my age embracing their roots.
The roots, of
you know?
course. Uh-huh.
And New York in general embraces their roots.
In Miami doesn't happen that? You didn't see that you saw here in New York, for example?
Not as a community.
Okay.
In a whole.
Okay.
So here, like, I feel like everyone's Latin, and we just look for the majority. I would say the majority of Latin people here in New York City, whether you're in Queens, the Bronx, Brooklyn, or Uptown, or the city. I feel like there is more solidarity amongst different Latin people from different countries. Where in Miami you have it, but you have it on a much more. It's on their families and the friends of families.
Okay.
But people there on some like. Puedes hablar con él, pero ten cuidado porque es mexicano.
Okay.
On some shit like that.
Yeah.
People start judging you on what country you're from. Oh, you're from that country? Oh, well, we speak Spanish better than you. You know, there's like this weird competition thing,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that
Entiendo.
that I kind of felt like I grew out of in over there. So when I came here, that was what I felt I wanted to be a part of.
And you felt like part of something.
Yeah,
also, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I felt like I was one of many Latin people that come here from a different city or different country, and
With
they come to New York
ideals and,
with goals in mind and dreams,
course.
and they want to see how I wanted to tell a story. Like before, that's why I was in filmmaking. I always wanted to tell a story, and I think the filmmaking part led to the music, because while I was working in advertising, I made the most money I ever made in my life, and I basically was able to afford to buy turntables and a mixer and some records. And the first records I started to get were like these New York City boogaloo and salsa records from like the 60s and the 70s. Something that was like New York, you know? And while it wasn't something I heard my parents listen to growing up, I felt like this was a part of my own because I found it.
Yeah.
And this is also part of like my culture, even though I'm not Puerto Rican and I'm not from New York. I'm like,
You're
this is
Latino.
Latin. Yeah. So I feel like my parents, if they were to hear this, they would dig it.
Okay.
You know?
Okay. Yeah, of
So
course.
that's, I think, how I kind of I think like my dad passing away, wanting to connect with that, you know, not wanting to lose touch completely with like my roots.
Do you remember your first record or your first bunch of records? Or
For sure, the first record, it was Subway Joe by Joe Bataan.
All right, yeah.
Subway Joe by Joe Bataan, the king of Latin soul.
Oh my God, he's great. We love him too.
He's such an inspiration. But that first record I remember at Academy, the old Academy in Williamsburg.
Okay.
The record is of him hugging the subway like lamppost.
Yeah,
and he's hugging it, and it's just New York, and he's like in Midtown, like near Times Square, and it was just I'm like I just need to hear this, you know. And it was everything. It was everything I thought I was gonna hear, and at the same time, it was unlike anything I'd ever heard. You know, because I really didn't know what Boogaloo was.
Yeah, of course. What did you bring? Let us know.
I brought, this is a recent favorite, but I know that I'm going to be playing this record for the next like 10, 20 years.
So it became an essential.
Yeah, but this became an essential. I feel like you'd get to trust a record more when you play it outside of the city that you're used to playing in a lot. And I got it in Miami, and I played it in Mexico and trying it out. And then it worked well over there. And then when I brought it back here, it was even better, know? So, yeah, the record is by Sonora Dinamita, and the song is called La Cumbia Nació en Barú.
La Cumbia Nació en Barú, en Cartagena.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. ¿Y tienes una canción en especial que...
La primera.
La primera.
The album cut.
Que es el cover.
Yeah.
Listen to it. Cumbia. La Cumbia Nació en Barú.
I'm a huge Sonora Dinamita fan, and there's another couple songs from them that I play a lot. So it's just one of those general rule of thumbs. Any record you see from a band that has already done something that you love, you have to listen to it. So the cover for,
it's beautiful.
And then the album title, like La Cumbia Nació en Barú. It's like they're telling a historical lesson. You know?
Definitely.
So that's. If you can make a song, like the perfect song, it's something telling a history about the culture in one way, shape, or form, like the real history, And it's funky as hell, and it makes people get down. Like those three things, you combine into one, and you have the perfect song. You know? So I heard that song. The first time I put it on, I found it in Found Sound Records in Miami.
Okay.
And the first time I heard it, it was just like, without question.
Take it.
Absolutely.
The first one was the one you listened to?
Yeah.
Okay.
And because that skip happens in the beginning of the song, I wind up jumping up a little bit.
Okay.
So I wind up, so I can mix it instead of just playing it from the beginning. And it winds up working out really well. And that song, I mean, you know how when you find certain records, you think you like them, then you get home, you listen to it, and you're like, I don't know what I was listening to,
Yeah.
Then there's others that immediately are going to be your favorites for many years, and this was the latter.
All right. La Sonora Dinamita, estamos en el Sonicycle Record Spin con Mickey Perez. How long has it been here in New York?
I've been DJing. I've been in New York since 2002, but DJing since 2008, and full time since like 2010. So I'll say full time 2011.
Okay,
so 9 years. Where I'm basically playing 3 to 6 nights a week.
Yeah.
And no one knew me. I didn't have any contacts. I didn't have any ins at any places. So I thought the best way to like make my name for myself is to just play all the time.
Yeah, of course.
Let's play as much as possible. And you get better the more you play.
Yeah, of course, of course.
Ahora me paso, cosa buena. Oye, sin ella yo me canso. Abran paso. Ahora me voy contento. No se olviden de hacerme caso. ¡Ay, nada! A la la. Oye, sabor.
You got in contact with Fania Records. You got a project with Fania Records. How was that? How did you get involved with them? And what did you exactly do if you were still working with them?
I got put in touch with them through Rio Bamba. Shout out to Rio Bamba, DJ Rio Bamba.
Yeah.
She worked with them, and they were doing a series of these parties called Armada Fania, and they were doing them for about like 8-9 years. And she reached out to me via email to open, essentially. So I did that, and then they invited me to do another one, and I did that one. The second one was for Kenny Dope. I opened for Kenny Dope, which was kind of like a dream come true. He's like a New York City house music master, And then after the second one, I approached them they asked me if I produced, and I told them that I did, and I was totally lying, And they're like, oh, well, we'd love for you to remix like some songs if you're interested. And I thought like, well, man, if they're not gonna, put me on for gigs all the time, next best way I could do it is if I start like, maybe do this remix stuff.
Yeah.
So I asked 2 friends of mine if they could help me, just school me on like how to learn fast as possible. And I wound up signing a deal with them to do an EP, a 6-song EP.
Okay.
And then maybe a month after I signed with them, they got bought out by Concord Music Group. And everything that they agreed on with the producers and the DJs that joined the collective. So I joined the collective, and a month later, like, oh, hey, nothing's happening.
And sorry, goodbye.
Yeah, basically.
Oh my
so I played like 3 parties, and then that was it. And then now they, we stayed in touch and all that stuff, but they were just going through so much change that they didn't really have anything concrete to do. And only since the pandemic, they've recently started having DJs again. So I've done a couple live streams with them, and we got some things because they're based in Miami now.
Okay, so we're gonna have a set, a Mickey set. What did you bring to make a set? It's gonna be kind of like a 50 minutes and an hour set. What did you bring today?
Well, man, I wanted to rep Colombia today, so
right.
I brought just Colombian heat.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That is awesome.
I hope that's cool.
That is awesome, man.
Yeah, man.
Well, we are the Sonicycle record spin, the Patio edition, and Mickey Perez is right here with us. He's gonna give us 1 hour of crazy, great Colombian music. And thank you, Mickey.
Of course, man. Thank you.
Yeah,
appreciate it big time, man.
Great. So nice talking to you and getting to know a little bit of your story.
Likewise, man. Thank you for having me, and anytime.
Yeah, right. Okay, people, so we're gonna have this record going around while Mickey gets ready on the turntables. And this is the Sonicycle record spin Patio edition. And we're live broadcasting from Forest Hills, Queens, en la ciudad de Nueva York, New York City. Los Herederos, transmitiendo en vivo a través de Radio Mixticius.
Como yo, no la como yo. El perro no come perro caimán, no come babilla. El perro no come perro caimán, no come babilla. Y yo no como